Okay, so recording has started. So let me start. I believe that you see my screen now.
It's blue.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So probably no. Okay. So today we will share with you updates regarding the release we made on a previous week. So this release is 1.1.0 of MSI. So we will show you the list of tickets which already published, which already got to the latest package, which is accessible now via the repo magento.com. Also, we will keep you updated regarding the track we started just recently during the Magenta Live in Australia contribution day, and the guys from the Allegiant consultant took part in this contribution day and created several pull requests. So we also will highlight this pull request here. Unfortunately, guys from Australia are not able to connect this meeting because the current time in Australia and in that part where they are is 3 a.m. of Saturday right now, so it's not really convenient for them to join today's meeting. Also, we'll talk a little bit about the upcoming release of Magento 2.3.1 and what the MSI version will be delivered along with this release. Also, we'll talk a little bit about the concept of independent releases, because the Magento MSI is a pioneering project and which made this first truly independent release. When we say independent, we actually mean independent out of the Magento releases timeline. And also we will go through the ticket. So the ticket which we initially created in the core, and these core tickets related with order management lifecycle, and these tickets were pretty crucial for us. So that these were issues and bugs which appeared not as a result of the Magento MSI, but they were before. But taking into account that like their existence actually affected the quantity calculation in MSI, because as you know, we have this pretty sophisticated mechanism of creation of reservation, the compensational reservation, and the stock deduction, so that in some particular cases in Magento there were some issues with with partial invoices, with partial shipments or cancellation, and that led us to make incorrect calculation of the whole sellable quantity. So that some of these issues been fixed to Magento 2.3.1, and Slava will demonstrate during the today demo meeting. During the today demo meeting, what has been actually fixed and how it currently works with MSI. And last but not least, Max Pronko, who is currently joining to today's meeting, will demonstrate you his proposal regarding how he see and how he proposed to improve to boost the performance of sellable quantity on the Magento product grid page. So that's quite a lot of updates for you, but taking into account that one of today's presenter, Slava Moskaliuk, asked me to make his update to be first in our today's demo because he's in a hurry. So let's Slava Moskaliuk to make an update regarding the current regression status. So we now in regression, but not in regression with 2.3.0, but in regression with 2.3.1. Because as you know, the Magento 2.3.1 release is beyond prepared right now to be launched. And we are making the latest preparation and checking whether the latest version of MSI fully compatible and whether we have any issue with this release. So Slava, feel free to share your screen and make an update and what you have.
Thank you, Igor. Let me try to share my screen. I'm doing for first time with Jeans. Yeah, it's work. Do you see my screen?
Yeah, we can see it, Slava.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. So I will start from regression. As Igor mentioned, we are doing now full manual regression cycle for our last meta package 1.1.0. And as you may see on our test run, our results so far, out of 602 test scenario, altogether we covered 201 test scenario. 190 is passed well. We have 5 test scenario has failed, and today Ivan found two new bugs. Probably we're not quite sure if it's new or we will investigate this issue, but it's about this bugs about grouped products and custom source. And some for test scenarios skip because they dedicated to still unrealized work of bundle product on custom source, which will be finalized later on milestone 3. So, and 2 fail are dedicated, they already known bug, but it's one bug what's not fixed yet. I think that's all about regression. We're doing it on cloud instance, not just with MSI, but also enterprise version of Magento to be sure that we're not broken something on enterprise version of Magento as well. So let me go to the issues as what was created for core team of Magento, and I've been investigating all issues as what we have in our wiki page. One issue was fixed before, it's 96262. It's already in Magento 2.3.0 on released version Magento. It's order status after cancellation. And after my investigation, another 4 issues, I found out that 2 already been fixed. One is number 96545. Let me open it. So problem was here that it's about also order processing for bundle order with bundle products. And after invoice, partial invoice of such order, we have a wrong line in our new shipment document that even if it was invoiced just free of bundle products, we have a line that invoiced 10. And let me go to my orders to show you how it's fixed. And let me demonstrate it again because I've been checking it. So I reorder my order again. It is. So I ordered 10 item of on. No, it's another issue. It's sorry. I will go and create new order then. So let's buy some item of bundle products. I'm not sure if I have 10, so I will buy just 5. Yeah. I'm placing order with bundle products. Here we are. And I will do partial invoice. So here it is our new order. We have here written that I ordered 5 items of bundle product. What it means that each bundle have 10 of a simple product, altogether 50. And let me partially invoice, for example, 2 of them of parent product. And after this, I do shipment. So order at 50, invoice at 20. Shipment. Yeah. Here we see this line was wrong. That it was written that invoiced all numbers of ordered product, but in fact we invoiced just 2. So this problem is solved now. I may submit shipment. It is. We see that ordered 5, shipped. Oh, I didn't change the invoice 20. So this issue is solved. And another issue, 54, 56, order status. its order status being changed. So it's about order with configurable products. And let me create a new order with configurable products. I hope I have 10 items left. Yeah. So I placing 10 items of configurable products order. And then I create full invoice. Yeah, it is. I do full invoice. Then I do partial shipment for 5 items. Yeah. We have order at 10, invoice at 10, ship at 5. And the last step we do in credit memo, so we return 5 items of invoiced. So it will be partial refund. I think with return to the stock. It's not mentioned here, but let us return to the stock. Yeah, so order status is complete now. The problem was that order status was processing, and this problem is solved. Order status complete, order status complete. Here we are, these two issues what was solved in Core Magento. As you may see here, I am testing on branch dev 2.3.1 release.
Cool.
I think that's all about issues, because 2 other issues are not fixed yet. It's about order items invoicing in the table, this one, and about proposing of shipment after partial cancellation. This all about these issues. And also I will demonstrate 2 fixes what been made on last weeks. It's one of them provided by Vitaly Boyko. It's PR.
Sorry for interruption, Slava. I just want
Yeah.
to add a few words regarding the fixes you just demonstrated. So why it's really important for us to have these fixes on board, because as Slava just demonstrated, before these fixes, the final status of order was not completed, and it was processing, and so it was not final. And in MSI, as you know, we for us it's very important to have orders in completed status, because when the order gets into the completed status, that actually means that we our reservations, which were initially created at the time when the order is created, they are compensated. So the total number, the sum of the whole reservations created in the scope of the one business operation, let's say order and the further shipments and the refunds, like altogether it give us 0. This leads to the correct computation of the saleable quantity for our products. And if we have the situation when the order is not completed, when it's not closed, this is almost for sure leads to the problem of quantity calculation. There was no such problem before we introduced MSI because at the time of Magento 1 or Magento 2.0, 2.1 or 2.2, we made all the quantity calculation was really simple, and all the quantity calculation we were dealing with was at the time of the order placement. So we made the quantity deduction at the time of order placement, and actually that was all. That's why order statuses could not interfere and break the quantity calculation. And the things changed drastically since we added MSI, and now if the order is not in a correct status, or if there are some core bugs or bugs with the checkout process or bugs with the order processing, these bugs will directly lead to problems with the quantity calculation in inventory. That's why for us the bugs with the order processing are really these bugs have really high severity for us and the high priority. That's why we're trying to pursue and like bump the priority for these issues in core team. And actually here we demonstrated that we don't have any more two of the really crucial bugs for us regarding the not completed order status in core. So now Slava will demonstrate two of the bug fixes which arrived during this week.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so let me continue. So one PR from Vitaly Boyko, it's about disabling source selection algorithm when when products set to manage stock, disabling on managing stock. So I have products which assign it to two custom sources. It's simple product, and it's have inventory on two different sources, but in advanced inventory, that I said that to not manage the stock. And I have order with such products. This is my simple product. It ordered some item of such products. And when I creating shipment, it's skipping source selection page because we're not managing stock in this case, and it's go to directly to creating shipment. So I may submit shipment because there is no sense of selecting any sources when you're not managing source stock sources. It's all the same. Another bug, also a PR was also provided by Vitaly Boyko. It's fixing problem for configurable products with custom option. And I have created configurable products with two different color options, red and blue. And I have added to this product option, two different options with radio button. instance. And let me create order for this. So we have a problem that we was not able to create a shipment for such a product. So let me buy some items. So I choose red color and I choose some option. I go to sales and I open my new order. When I've been testing this issue, I had a warning, an error that source item not found. So here I creating shipment and it's working. We have sources list. We may choose source to deduct these items. I may proceed to shipment and create new shipment document.
Yeah, so the root cause of that issue was that for the custom options, we changed the SKU of the product, and taking into account that all the reference for the products on MSI we have by SKU, there was an issue here, and this issue has been fixed by Vitaly Boyko.
Yeah. That's all from me for today. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Slava, for your presentation. And as I understand, the next one gonna be Max Pronka, because Max is also short on time, and I will just provide a short background regarding the thing which Max going to present. So Max, like back to week ago, or maybe 2 weeks ago, Max grabbed a ticket regarding the performance improvement for MSI, and the ticket he assigned himself was like improve the performance of the product grid page, and I still did not manage how to share the screen. Yeah, so actually we have pretty tricky task, because what we added on the product grid page, we added these two columns of the quantity per source and sellable quantity, and both of these columns actually formed by additional calls to our service layer. So for the quantity per source, we are retrieving all the source item by particular SKU for each particular cell. Regarding the sellable quantity, the computation even more tricky, because on the front end we didn't have a situation when one product could be considered in the scope of different stocks. So because we consider the stock as some kind of the context for product, and on the front end we also make all the operation with the product in some particular one and only one stock. But here on the product page, on the product grid page, it makes sense, and this is really usable for merchant to see the saleable quantity on different stocks, and especially taking into account that each stock is represented by own table in our database. We end up with quite a lot of additional service calls and quite a lot of additional MySQL queries, because this data grab from different tables. That's why adding this functionality, we are we added this performance degradation for this page, because this additional functionality brought additional resources to be utilized and additional resources to be spent to build these two columns. And this is pretty tricky, because what can we do from one side is to make this data is not so accurate. So because for example, regarding the saleable quantity, we can just not apply all the reservations, but this can lead to some confuse from the merchant point of view, because in Magento we used to have the latest and the most fresh data in the Magento grids. And if it's acceptable to provide some delay and some stale data on the front end, it's not possible to provide this data for merchant on the back end. So merchant usually wants to see the most updated and the most fresh data in the Magento backend. So today, Max Proenko will demonstrate his proposal, how he's proposed to deal with the situation, how he proposed to fix this performance degradation we added to this page. So I'm stop sharing with my screen. Yeah, and Max, feel free to show your proposal.
Hello. Do you guys see my screen?
Yep.
Good. So thank you, Igor, for introduction. While working on this, by the way, I noticed two people were showing Vagrant installation with Magento, and I'm probably the only one who is still using native MacBook OS installation for working with MSI project. However, as part of MSI project, I did assign to myself a performance improvement task to improve sellable quantity column on product grid. I spent a couple of an hour or so to figure out how overall MSI works in terms of stocks, sources, and so on, different assignments. And before I actually jumped into performance optimization, or while I was working on performance optimization, I found out that I could create a small improvement for managed stock grid for fixing a label of assigned sources. So as you can see, it's a fixed version of assigned sources. I created a pull request. In this pull request, we can find a label change, which includes a pop-up, stock grid, translations, and MFTF tests. And if you guys would like to check and merge this pull request, it would be really appreciated, because I'm waiting a couple of days. But going forward, as I said, while I was doing this performance investigation, I did check how sellable quantity field works and how it loads information for the sellable quantity column or value per product. And what I did, I generated, first of all, I started using Magento framework profiler to find out some points in terms of how fast prepare data source method is executes and provides sellable quantity information. And as part of this, I use profile to generate a result for one product execution. And as you can see, it's almost super fast, almost, right? And then I used performance profile, medium-sized performance profile, in order to generate 40K products, or I had a screenshot of.
Sorry for interruption, Max. Because just to keep it clear, because our performance profiler generate data for the default source and default stock, so we have the data generated just for like.
I don't hear
Yes.
you at all.
Can you hear me, Max?
Hello?
Max?
Can you shake your head because I don't hear you? Probably my. Good, guys. I'm very sorry. Let me grab my headphones because I think I have issues with my.
So the question I wanted to ask Max Proenka whether like he created additional stocks, because our profile, like the data generated profile we use for.
Do you hear me?
Yes, and you?
Yes. Sorry, I missed what you just said.
Yeah. So I just wanted to clarify and make sure that you added additional stocks and sources, because the profile which you used generate data just for the single stock merchant. So it creates just a single stock and the single source and fill it with it like that data. But after that, to make the performance measurement, especially for this particular case, where you have the issues with the saleable quantity, you're supposed to introduce these additional stocks. Because if you will leave the data as is, you actually would not get a problem with the performance degradation, because you will end up working with only stock.
Yes, I understand what you're saying. Yes, I did use performance profile medium without stock generation because as far as I'm aware, performance profiles are not generating MSI related data.
Yep. That's true. So that's why you had to do it manually.
Yes. So what I did, I generated a medium profile and I checked how fast it takes to return data for a set of product items. And it did happen that it takes way more time than, for example, we have a single product. So the problem in performance not only in stock/sources, but also in amount of SQL queries or database operations, or probably number of queries generated for a single product item in order to return back sellable quantity, because there are some calculations on PHP side as well as independent requests to database. So long story short, I generated medium profile. I checked and it appeared that it's sometime around 14 seconds. And yes, Igor, you're right. 14 seconds, it's only with default stock and default source. Then I removed all this because my machine was dying with all this, I don't know, probably with database, CPU and memory issues on my local. I did remove whole database and recreate it from scratch, and then I created two sources, two stocks, and two products. Probably for me it's more than enough in order to first of all, I found out the problem where it's coming from, and second of all, like understanding in which way we potentially can improve performance and introduce performance fixes. For this, I also went ahead and created sellable quantity column in product read performance proposal, which I encourage you guys to review and provide feedback. So in terms of performance proposal, there are a couple of things we can do in order to improve sellable quantity or prepare data source method execution. In this document, you can find problem statement, performance metrics, some background regarding performance metrics, how I collected them. Obviously, we could run, and I can prepare even a small profile with a couple of sources and stocks and run it again to see how fast or how slow it performs. Prepare data source method executes in order to provide a list of sellable quantities. So in terms of a solution, there are a couple of items I would like to propose. First of all, the whole idea about prepare data source, if we will have a look into the code, is that when we go through each row, and each row is data representation of a product for a product grid, and as we can see, line number 70, the execution and data preparation goes per SKU or per line item. And if we will go deeply into the implementation of how, for example, we can prepare sellable quantity or quantity data by SKU, we will find out that there are additional loads, additional for each statements. And so the end task is to prepare an array of 3 elements which are going to be used for this column. And what I wanted to say is that in the first place, sellable quantity or prepared data source is using infrastructure or interfaces or SPI for retrieving as data per single product or per single SKU. And one of the improvements, probably first improvement, is that we can introduce new class. It's class, not interface, because I found out that get sellable quantity data by SKU is a model in inventory sales admin UI. So basically we can create yet another model. However, this model could work on a list level, not on item level, but on a list level. And the execute method will, there are a couple of options. First of all, execute method of this get sellable quantity data can have an argument which is search criteria interface, and based on this search criteria interface, we will prepopulate a list of SKUs which are allowed for stock management. So we will process, or we will filter all SKUs which we can use in order to return stock management, because first, if we will check prepare data source, it checks whether or not for a particular product type in per product we can have stock management. So we can filter a list of SKUs or items which we can work with going forward, and we can put it in search criteria interface, and we can provide into execute method, and then this gets sellable quantity data. Execute method will be responsible for retrieving sellable quantity list of parameters. And as I said, that there are 2 options how we can work with or implement execute method. First one is introduce to pass one search criteria argument, and execute method will be responsible for dealing with this search criteria depending on an answer to a question which is still open. I have a single open question, but we will get into this in a couple of seconds. So we will pass search criteria, and based on these input arguments, which is going to be a filter of all SKUs available for stock management, we will return a list of sellable quantity data. Or second option would be, instead of search criteria, for execute method for get sellable quantity data is to pass list of SKUs and list of type IDs which are available for stock management. However, the second option is not preferable because I think Igor can correct me or add few cents about consistency and about optional arguments or the fact that we don't really need to pass type IDs. However, like there is option number 2, what we can do, we can pass array of SKUs and array of type IDs, and based on this data inside get sellable quantity data, we can process this information and return data back for product grid. Second improvement, what we can do, we can use stock repository get list method instead of as far as I remember, if we will go deeper, stock repository get list method, because here we can see we return a list of assigned stock IDs per given SKU, and then we perform for each, and for each stock ID we then trigger stock repository get, and with the single query we return a stock instance. Instead of this get, we can use get list, and this is the second proposal what we can do in order to improve performance. Do you hear me? Yes.
Yeah. So sorry for interruption. Just to summarize, because you just described like two contracts. So one of them accept the switch criteria, another one accept an array of SKUs. But what's gonna be inside of the implementation of that service? Like how we reach this performance improvement? Because currently, like all the stock data are located in separate tables, and potentially, especially like for B2B users, it could be in like numerous number of stocks, so that we will still end up querying different storages.
Good. Okay. Yeah, I hear your question. Long story short, amount of requests to database have to be decreased because there are 3 to 4 places in existing implementation of get sellable quantity data by SKU in execute method. We can improve and decrease number of database requests.
By means of what? Do you propose to make kind of union between different tables?
No. I propose instead of using, for example, stock repository get method, which will return a single stock instance, I propose to use a get list method, which will return a list of available stocks per SKU, assigned stock IDs per SKU. And not per SKU, but per list of SKUs we will pass. So instead of 3 requests per SKU, if SKU has 3 stock IDs, we will send only 1 request, and we will return 3 records, which are going to be 3 instances of stock interfaces. And with these stock interfaces, we can go and work with data of stock.
I got your point. So, but then, for example, you see that for this particular SKU is assigned to 100 stocks. So in any case, you end up with querying for one particular product, like these 100 different stock tables. Even so that this query would be pretty fast because you are querying by the primary key in this table, but in any case it's gonna be like 100 different queries just for one row or one cell in the product grid table.
When we will get a list of stock IDs, you mean, or when we will get a list of stocks?
Yeah. So your product could be assigned up to up to a big number of stocks.
Mm-hmm.
And you're talking about the service which will provide you a list of stocks to which this product is assigned to. So here you make some performance improvement regarding the determining part to how many stocks the given product is assigned to. But now, let's say your service return like 100 different stocks. So
Mm-hmm.
now you're supposed to retrieve all that quantities on all of these stocks. And currently it's implemented via independent service calls and independent data like database query. So in any case, you'll end up with 100 queries to all of these stocks.
Yes, so long story short, as I said, that all these operations before we will retrieve a quantity for a given product in a given stock, we can improve all these SQL queries and data retrieval by minimizing amount of requests we can send. And the open question I have is related to get product saleable quantity class, which contains logic, calculation logic, saleable quantity taking into account existing reservation, all this reservation, because I found it's like 15 lines of logic on how to understand whether or not we have enough amount of saleable quantity. And that's the tricky part which I didn't get into the thing where I can say, yes, we can improve this part because it's kind of an open question. And
Sure.
whether we can duplicate logic for some service which you can provide, or we can in a separate class or whatever, or we can move somehow or duplicate this logic on a database level.
Let me paraphrase your question. So, you wanted to optimize the logic behind the get product saleable quantity service call, and you wanted to move this logic onto the database level. So that try to optimize the whole computation of the determining the saleable quantity for a bunch of products at once, but not making it like product by product in a loop. What we actually do, building the product grid. So the get product saleable quantity is actually this is one of the main services in MSI. And this service now is not just a static quantity, which is just retrieved from the index table, but also we apply all the reservation placed for this in the scope of different orders. Also, we apply the inventory configuration, because depending on the inventory configuration, like whether product is assigned like stock manageability, or whether product is assigned some particular value of backorder, or whether product is assigned some particular value for minimal threshold quantity, this service will return the correct data. So potentially you can put this logic onto database level, but this database query would be heavy enough, and and along with that, you have to proceed with not with joining, but unioning all the table, all the stock table. And taking into account that we don't have in our stock table the stock ID as a part of the table. So the stock ID actually contained in the name of this particular table. So we have like inventory underscore stock underscore one, where the one is the ID of the union table. So if you will just make a union, we will violate the constraint we have on this particular table level. So we have to do like some additional tables, like altering them on the fly, and this is also can be considered as optimal solution. So this is actually pretty tricky. That's why I don't think that it is easy to move this logic onto the database level, first of all. So what we can potentially do, we can like decrease the accuracy of this data. So we can show stale data, not, for example, taking reservation into account, but that would be misleading for merchants. So that like merchants will see that sellable quantity is 100, but that would not take into account several orders which already placed and actually which is literally deducted that quantity. And maybe the data would be fresh on the product page, but so it's not probably what our merchants want. At least like I had several conversations regarding that with different guys who making this customization, like with guys from Greeks, and they told me like that this function like they realize that data on a product grid are fresh, so they are not stale. So merchant with a quick glance looking at the product grid wants to get the latest data. So currently, it's really hard to achieve this functionality with with database queries. So potentially, what we can do, we can try to to build this grid with the dummy data, and like via AJAX request upload the needed data, so the merchant will be given like the first response very quickly, but the saleable data would be calculated a little bit with some delay, and it will arrive with the AJAX response a little bit later. So this is kind of possible solution for this problem. Or actually, I don't even know. Maybe like Mark, maybe you have any idea how this problem could be resolved from the look and feel side, not from the technical perspective, because currently I don't like what we are discussing just so like worsen makes the data is like not so fresh, so that like the spoiled merchant experience, but maybe it's somehow possible to improve the performance via changing the look and feel.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have something right off the top of my head, but we could definitely look through this or groom it more as we need to.
Yeah, maybe even we can ping Evgen Banych from his side.
Certainly.
Maybe he will find any ideas. Because currently, like there are no precise technical solution for this issue, because we are adding a big bunch of new functionality to the existing page, and this new functionality leads to performance degradation.
Okay. And unfortunately, I need to jump to another meeting, but
Okay.
I'll catch the rest of this recording later.
Okay.
Yes,
Cool.
yes, thank you, Igor, for sharing your thoughts. But still, what we did so far, we did a great implementation of stock inventory, however, on a individual item level. We don't have a bunch processing level of
That's true.
or bunch data processing on more than one item.
I agree with you, but the main idea behind that decision, so this was done intentionally. So as you probably mentioned on MSI, we have multiple operations, so-called bulk APIs for most of the entities. So for example, we have bulk APIs for source items. So now it's possible to make an import or export of the multiple source items in the scope of the single operation. And the colleague of Artyom, who is currently on a call, Alex Luzun, actually helped us with proceeding this functionality and make it implemented in the scope of MSI. But regarding we have the same for for source links. That's why like most of the operations for most of the entities we introduce on MSI, we support the bulk API. But regarding the stock, we always consider that like when we are dealing with the system, when we are customer or we are working with MSI, with Magento on a headless way, you will be always work in a context of a single scope. That's actually why how the typical scenario works on Magento. So when customer comes to Magento frontend, we based on the sales channel, in our case this is website, we resolve the current stock, and then all the operations uh, regarding the inventory are made in a scope of the given stock. That's why on a front end, it's not so we don't consider that this is correct business operation that customer will deal with different stocks when he working with a Magento front end, let's say. Because if you're placing order, you are dealing with one stock only. If you're making a return, you are dealing with one stock only. If you're making invoice or partial shipment, you're dealing with one stock only. So there is no any business operation except this admin grid where we just want to simplify visualization for merchant. So we don't have any example of the business operation when whether merchant or customer supposed to deal with different stocks. That's actually why we don't introduce the service layer, which provide the possibility to work with products from different stocks. So that was actually an intentional part.
But it's not like introducing a service layer to work with bulk of products. It's about rendering existing data and calculating this data on the fly. And the question would be whether merchant, and you said that merchant would like to see an up-to-date sellable quantity per product for all products like immediately. However, let's consider the fact that order grid is updated asynchronously, and even with at the given second we have 5 new orders, merchant will not by any chance see these 5 new products on order grid.
Sure, because like in any case,
it would be like, so from one side we are showing index data which are ready for it's like read data, and from other side we are showing write data, like up-to-date data for product grid.
Sure, like you're supposed to just accept the fact that all the data we are showing actually everywhere on the web. So all the data we are showing in Magento is a stale data, because even if you open the product grid or any other grid, so the data shown on that grid is stale, because potentially the data could be updated right after the grid was opened. So currently in Magento we don't have kind of long pooling operation which keep tracking that all the data shown on the screen are fresh, and if some data are changed, like in the scope of another process, let's say, so we track the changes and update this grid automatically. So yeah, so all the data which is shown on Magento admin panel is stale. The only issue we are talking about the delay, how like what the stale in this case mean. So whether it's like mean minutes, hours, or whether it mean like that if you refresh the grid, you will get the updated data. So if you would not keep track the reservations, our data would be really stale, and it would be confusing because we would be showing different data on the level of product and on the level of product grid. So probably it's a good discussion, and let's proceed further regarding the demonstration, because we also have several topics to highlight during this demo. But let's proceed with the discussion further on MSI Slack channel, or let's schedule a dedicated meeting, because this topic is very interesting, because this is kind of collision of the business use cases from the merchant point of view and the data visualization. So now, because I'm considering the product grid as a part of the reporting tool in this case, but not as a part of the real use case merchants or customer wants to deal with. So this is pretty important task to figure out and to solve it, and this is pretty important both from technical and business perspective. But now let's proceed further, because we're already like you were always saying like the long story short, but probably in this particular case we can just express it as the long story short. So the long story long happening right now, and but this definitely makes sense for us. So let's proceed with further discussion on this topic. And
before you will jump into another topic, as I said, long story short, we can proceed with this performance improvements in two steps. First step is to optimize all single operations to perform bulk operations, and second step is to think on about how we can deal with calculation of up-to-date saleable quantity per product. And this is what it's a good idea would be to discuss offline. Thank you, Igor. Thank you.
Thank you, Max, for your time. Thank you, Max, for your for your passion with highlighting the issue we have. And now let's proceed with further updates. I'll try to share the screen once again. I hope that So, so we discuss the performance issue. So yeah, let me switch the topic, drastically and discuss the release which we done. So independent MSI release, which was done on the previous week. And what it actually means, the independent releases, because we are constantly saying that we've done the independent release, but many people are still curious, like what it actually means. So first of all, let me show you what we released. So we released this bunch of tickets, so more than 30 different issues been added to the latest assembly of MSI. The number of this release is 1.1.0. As you can notice, we bumped the minor version of MSI, and actually this leads this means that we introduce some more new functionality. And regarding the new functionality here, we've added the support for the distance-based source selection algorithm. Okay, got it. We like Elasticsearch support and some performance improvement. And what it actually means, like independent releases, because like people from the Magento world are used to the big bang releases, which Magento usually do. So like approximately once per year we launch the major release, like 2.3. The next one gonna be 2.4, and along the year, like literally each quarter, we are releasing patch releases. But these patch releases are also, they're not really semantically correct. I mean, like they're not the releases don't follow the semantic versioning. So they don't follow firmware, and in the scope of the patch releases, like 2.3, like just an example, like 2.3.1 or 2.3.2, we are releasing new functionality. Like in the scope of the 2.3.1, we are releasing the page builder, and the page builder is a new big feature. So like if we were following the firmware, probably it's supposed to bump at least the minor version. But taking into account that our 2.3 something is not the firmware releases, but these are commercial releases, that's just to provide the ability for merchant to get aware, like about our timelines and the release cycles. So these releases usually bring quite a lot of changes, and some of these changes could be backward incompatible. That's why even upgrading to patch releases, merchants and the third-party developers usually stuck with the situation when some backward incompatible changes appears during the release, and these issues should be resolved manually, like programmatically, etc., etc. So what we are doing, and what's the main goal of Magento in this case? So main goal of Magento to get rid of these big bang releases, like these big red triangles, and make small releases and brought to the market some feature as soon as it is ready. And we done that the first time with MSI, where we managed to prepare 3 different stories, like Elasticsearch support, introducing the distance-based algorithm, and different performance improvement. And all of that was done and brought to the market like as an independent composer version. And now, like, what it actually means, like, we release this composer. This composer now available via repo magento.com, and now all the first Magento installation will include the latest version of MSI. So if you're installing Magento via composer from the scratch now, you will be given the latest version of MSI. If you already have the Magento, like Magento 2.3.0 plus MSI 1.0.3, so the previous version of MSI, you can upgrade the MSI via composer update command. So this is pretty straightforward. This is pretty like easy to get update for the latest component version. And thank you. Like this is why it is so important for us, because we expect so like as I already said, the MSI is a pioneering project, but this practice gonna be like common for other projects as well. So that's gonna be adopted by page builders. That's gonna be adopted to other components, like isolated components. Probably you heard that our chief architect Anton Kuril is talking and spreading the main idea we are tending to follow, like the isolated services, and all of these isolated services supposed to be independently releasable sometime in future. So actually our final goal is to make releases maybe even each day, like this is called continuous deployment. So that if you have some feature or bug fix ready to be released, we'll just drop it to the market, and it would be automatically deployable for majority of merchants, and at least it would be automatically deployable on our cloud-based environment, where we are in charge for supporting the backward compatibility during the upgrades. And of course, thank you very much for our major contributors. Thank you very much for Ricardo Tempesta, who is our tough guy, Rick, who is implemented by his own distance-based algorithm, and to many other guys, including Alex Lizun, who's introduced support for the bulk API and who fixed several memory leakage at the time of the inventory transition from one source to another source. So all these contributions counted, all these contributions matters, and we already see that like we have bunch of updates and the question regarding the new release of MSI. That's probably all from my side. I know that Lori will add a little bit more about the release and about the publication she did regarding this release, highlighting the release. So Lori, feel free to share what you have.
Right. Hey everyone. So I'll keep this really short and quick. We did release a dev blog that includes all the information you need to know to get started with MSI 1.1.0. We've also updated the upgrade information if you're upgrading from 1.0.3. That was the initial package with 2.3. We include a few bits and pieces here of the highlights of what we've provided, which Igor has gone over extensively and very well, including a few little screenshots to get you interested, including as well links to all the documentation, everything you need to know to get started. It's all at the bottom. I'll let you walk through those, look over everything, and a major new addition for the documentation is we do have MSI release notes. We are going to be, engaging in these smaller releases that are going to be staggered within and outside of core. So we've also got a set of release notes that are completely specific to MSI. And if we have to have any additional information on core release notes, we'll provide links back and forth between the two. With this release, we also did update the dev docs and the merchant docs to provide as much information as you need for extending and to see that great work that the Rick did for the distance-based algorithm and how you can incorporate it programmatically. That's it.
So, Tom, do you have any updates regarding the quality?
Yeah, if you'd like, I can run through a brief presentation. There's been no update on automation, and I believe Slava covered all of the manual. So no update there beyond Slava's regression run, which when it finishes up will benchmark against the previous one. But I can make my presentation available to the group.
Okay, cool. So probably this is pretty much all. This time we the demonstration was unintentionally long, but I hope that was not so boring and you enjoy with what we shared with you. And of course, don't wait for other demonstration. And if you have some particular question, ping us, chat with us, schedule a meeting, and we are ready to discuss. By the way, I want to present you one of the folk, and I believe most of you know this guy. So this is Evgen Shakhsuvarov. He's currently on a call, and this guy will going to join MSI shortly because we see that there are too many work on the MSI track. So Evgen will be working with us, will be helping to you, and so this is definitely good news for us, and I hope that Evgen will push the PR processing and all the other stuff we have on the project. And also I want to say hi to guys from the ISM company who currently on a call, the guys who would like to join the implementation of in-store pickup project. We already had 2 meetings with them regarding the in-store pickup, so the guys especially interested in this feature, and we will schedule shortly the grooming and discuss how the in-store pickup can be implemented. Yeah. So that's probably all for today. Thank you guys for your time, for your contribution, for your passion, and see you around.
Thanks.
Thanks, everybody.